Hey there, my name is LexC and thank you so much for tuning in to another Grammy video as part of the Grammy series. In this video, I'm going to be talking about Album of the Year, and you'll notice that I don't have Q with me. That's because he said that he wasn't about to go through listening to all of those albums. So I'm going to do this solo, giving you my reviews and my thoughts and my predictions about who the winner is going to be for Album of the Year. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, then please stay tuned.
We got a problem. We ain't got no patience. If it's ending, then all I can say is oops, my bad. Oops, my bad.
So Q is not with me to do this particular video because he said he didn't want to go through listening to all of these albums, and you know what? I feel him. This was part us doing this together, but also a lot of me trying to get back into falling in love with music and keeping up with things, listening to people that I haven't heard before, and just is a whole journey, right? All right. But anyway, if you are new here, thank you so much for tuning in. If you are returning, then you already know the drill. Welcome back. For the Grammy series, what's happening is me and Q, we have looked at the nominees for a select few categories, and we've made our blind predictions on who we think are going to win the nominations, all right? And we've been going through listening to all the categories and all of the songs and the albums that have been nominated. Give them a listen. After listening to it, are we going to stick with our same blind prediction, or are we going to change our mind based on how the listening experience went, right? If I win, we get a couples massage together. Still benefits us both. If he wins, then I got to take him to the strip club. So if he were here right now, he would be like, no, you mean when I win. Ain't no if you when I win. But anyway, so here I am doing Album of the Year by myself. This is going to be a review of each album as well as my thoughts on it, and then I'm going to give you my final thoughts on who I think is going to take home the trophy, the Grammy. You know, am I going to stick with my blind prediction, or am I going to choose a new selection? And I just want to preface all of this by saying that this is pretty much like vibes. Like, some albums I found myself listening to the lyrics. Other albums I found myself like not really listening to what they're saying, but kind of just like feeling what's happening on the record. You know what I mean? So that is something to keep into consideration for this. But let me go ahead and read off the nominees for Album of the Year for the Grammys 2025. We have Andre 3000, New Blue Sun, Beyoncé, Cowboy Carter, Sabrina Carpenter, Short and Sweet, Charli XCX, Brat, Jacob Collier, Jesse Volume 4, Billie Eilish, Hit Me Hard and Soft, Chappell Roan, The Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess, and Taylor Swift, The Tortured Poets Department. So if you see me looking down or looking around, it's because I have my notebook where I actually did write notes on all of these albums, how they made me feel, where I was when I was listening to them, standout records, and my overall thoughts. All right, so starting with Andre 3000, New Blue Sun. And by the way, I guess I'll go ahead and jump in and say what my blind prediction was. My blind prediction for Album of the Year is that Beyonce would take home my number one spot. Beyonce for Cowboy Carter would take home the Grammy for Album of the Year. My second prediction, Taylor Swift with The Tortured Poets Department. That selection, I've got to be transparent, that's purely political because I know that she's been having a crazy run with winning Album of the Year, even beating out Beyonce a few years back. But yeah, that was my blind prediction for this. I'm gonna let you know by the end of these reviews if I stand by that decision or if I'm gonna change my mind, okay? Starting with Andre 3000 for his album New Blue Sun. This was 8 tracks long, and the total runtime was 1 hour 28 minutes. And this one surprised me. I knew to expect like a flute album, but I wasn't really exactly sure, like, is he actually going to be good at playing the flute? Like, I know the artist in him would not allow himself to put out something that's bad necessarily, but it was actually really cool to hear him exploring his artistry, especially being a rapper from the legendary group Outkast with Big Boy, right? There was very much great musicality around New Blue Sun. I could also hear some of those remnants from Outkast. So overall, I really loved the album, and I loved the environment that I listened to the album in. while I was working with Kim Fields for the Refresh Retreat, this year was in Tucson, Arizona at the Lowe's Hotel, spa and resort type situation. So that whole retreat, it was a wellness retreat. It was all about getting away, being one with nature, and returning back to center and being still and checking back in with ourselves. And this album just so perfectly fit the vibe of that entire weekend. Like the very last day we had a brunch, and the last day we went out to the waterfalls where we went in groups and did like a 20-25 minute meditation by the waterfall. When we broke so that people could go into their groups, I played New Blue Sun, and I swear to you, this album just fit in with nature. It made me want to stretch. It made me want to do yoga. It made me want to sit and think and ponder. So like if you're somebody who's really into that, then this album, right up your alley. I can appreciate it for what it is. And yeah, the standout track for me was 93 Till Infinity and Beyonce. And it's funny because when I was listening to it, before I knew what the name of the song was, I thought to myself, this sounds like something that Beyonce could totally sing on. And then I looked at the name of the song and it was called 93 Till Infinity and Beyonce. So I thought that was really funny. But again, I loved hearing how another artist is exploring his creativity, right? The musicality of it, not just the flutes, but also the way that he chose to put in different sounds to complement the flute and really create like an entire soundscape. That's really what this album felt like. And I can appreciate that all of the tracks were at least 8 minutes, definitely over 5 minutes long. And that allowed me to get into a vibe. And it wasn't necessarily like a structure, you know, it was free flowing and it was just taking you through this musical soundscape. And I really appreciate Andre 3000 for exploring his artistry and giving us New Blue Sun. So overall, I really actually loved it. I don't have any criticism of it. I think it was perfect for exactly what I needed it to be and for exactly where I was at the time. Next up, y'all know I gotta get my girl Beyonce, Cowboy Carter. This album was 27 tracks at 1 hour and 19 minutes. Kind of disappointing because 27 tracks sounds like it should be longer, especially when we compare it to like Taylor Swift's album, Child. I'm gonna get to that. But 27 tracks, 1 hour and 19 minutes of a runtime. Surprisingly, this is her country album, right? She'll say that it's a Beyonce album, not a country album, but this is her country album. Now, something that's important to consider when we're thinking about, you know, everything that's being nominated, as long as whatever category the album is in, as long as it is 75% that genre, it can live within that genre. And Beyonce very much gives at least 75% country on this album. But I was pleasantly surprised. Again, I was in Tucson, Arizona on this wellness retreat with Kim Fields, Refreshed by Kim Fields. And I was listening to this album while watching the sunset. This was probably day 2. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Was it Saturday? It was probably Sunday, the last day actually. Sunday, we were done with work. I didn't have to do anything. So I just explored and I watched the sunset listening to Cowboy Carter, and it was the perfect vibe. I was all the way at the top of the hiking point where you could see all the mountain ranges going across. It's just a beautiful property, y'all. I may or may not insert pictures. I don't know yet. But yeah, this was 75% of a country album. There were definitely some fusions. There was some rap. But the standout tracks for me, the vocals on track 1, American Requiem, beautiful. The vocal layering, it was ear candy. And that was a very short song. I think it was like a minute or less. Track number 8, Bodyguard. Track number 12, Spaghetti with Linda Martell and Shabuzi. Track number 13 with Alligator Tears. I feel like she was giving us a slick little message in there, but y'all can let me know if y'all agree or not in the comments. Track number 16, Two Most Wanted featuring Miley Cyrus. Track number 17, Levi's Jeans featuring Post Malone. Track number 20, Yaya. Very 70s, very rock montage feel. Hold on, this is Q right now. Hello?
Hey, go back to those styles.
Do you wanna say hi to the camera? I'm actually doing the album of the year portion.
Nah.
No? Do you wanna tell your predictions real quick or no? Can I show you to the camera?
Nah.
Oh, okay. Can I play your voice in the edit?
Sure, you can do that if you want to.
Okay, I'm gonna probably do that.
Alright, later.
Okay, I'll call you when I'm done. Let me control myself. That was Q. What were his predictions on this? He said Billie Eilish hit me hard and soft and Taylor Swift. We're just gonna keep his predictions where they are because he already said he's not gonna review this stuff. But anyway, where were we? With Beyonce. The other standout tracks, track 17, Levi's Jeans with Post Malone. Track 20, Yaya, I was pleasantly surprised. At first I was like, ooh, this is very different from the vibe and the journey that you've been taking us on, Beyonce. But what I love about Yaya, and it's probably my favorite, it's probably one of my favorite songs off the album, just because it takes me back to that 80s, 70s rock. And it feels very, I don't know, like, you know how the film looks all grainy and people have the bell bottoms and they have the long curled hair with the circular shades? It gives very much, I'm on stage in my bell bottoms and my platform boots and just playing the guitar. You know, it just feels very, it's so musical as well. Like, the musicality on this album is just, I love it. I love it. And then I got to see her perform Yaya while I watched, you know, when she was performing for Houston Texans versus somebody. Child, they lost so bad. But she gave us a Super Bowl performance at that game. It's on Netflix, I believe, if y'all want to watch it. But I heard her perform it and I was like, yeah, that song, that's got that live energy appeal to it. And it feels big energy on the album. Well, I was actually listening through my phone. It sounded pretty amazing through the phone. But yeah, that was track number 20. That's Yaya. And track number 22, Desert Eagle. Y'all, Beyonce is a freak, okay? Beyonce is a little freak. All right, but overall, I love the album. She is a master at the order of the songs. It really felt like I was listening to a playlist while listening to this entire album, because just the way that she ordered things and the way that she musically goes from one track into the next, even going into some of the skits with Linda Martell and Willie Nelson samples in there, it was really just a masterclass in putting us into an experience and keeping us there. So even though there's 27 tracks and it's only an hour, 19-minute runtime, I felt like I was immersed the entire time. Like, the way that it's ordered, nothing felt out of place. Everything felt like it was supposed to go that way, and she really took me through an experience, which is the same exact way I feel about Renaissance, especially having listened to it while in the Dolby movie theater, seeing like the documentary behind it. And Beyonce is just round of applause all around. The musicality of it and the use of the typical country guitar sound. You would think that it would make the songs sound the same, but it's very distinct in the way that she uses it. This is definitely a country album. And again, I appreciate her for exploring her artistry, because country is not something that we've heard from Beyonce in a big body of work like this. We've heard little spurts here and there, you know, doing stuff with Dixie Chicks and Daddy's Lessons, I believe, is that song from, I forget which album, but she's definitely played with it. But I appreciate her exploring her artistry, and hearing that this album was actually like 5 years in the making. It's all the more sweeter in my opinion. And yeah, great job, Beyonce. Y'all know I love Beyonce. Let's move on to the next one, which is Sabrina Carpenter, Short and Sweet. This one is 12 tracks long and a runtime of 36 minutes, which that's probably the biggest critique that I have for this album. It wasn't long enough, but then again, it's like, duh, the song is like, duh, the album is called Short and Sweet. She gets in, she gets out. It's short and sweet, to the point, da-da-da-da. But Sabrina, I'm really upset that there weren't more, and that it wasn't more. Give me more. I wanted more. But that's a great problem to have, I guess. And again, a lot of these I listened to while I was in Arizona, like Andre 3000, Beyonce, Sabrina Carpenter, Charli XCX. Yeah, I listened to all of those while I was in Arizona. With Sabrina Carpenter, I was listening to her while I was getting ready and while I was showering and all that stuff. So definitely a nice vibe. I will say that she was probably the first one that I listened to, and then it was Charli XCX, and then Beyonce, and then Andre. But it's very much like when I used to just turn on music just to have music playing. and the vibe just helped to elevate my mood. That's what this album did for me in something as mundane as getting ready for the day and taking a shower. So I really appreciate Sabrina Carpenter's work for being part of the journey for me and going back to some of the nostalgia of how I used to play music, and that's when I really loved it. But anyway, I really enjoyed this entire project. The standout tracks for me, track number 1, Taste, was like, really, Sabrina? On the first track? Like, girl, something that's really interesting, like with Sabrina Carpenter as well as I'll say Chappell Roan, it's their ability to be like these sweet face, clean, pure vocal women who are saying just like the most like, I don't want to say ratchet, but the most like raunchy things. It's really interesting. But on track number 1, she's sitting there telling this girl about how, oh yeah, how do I taste? Because when you're with him now, but all you taste is me. Sabrina, okay? And then there is track number 2, Please, 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 which has been having a good run right after Espresso. Track number 3, Good Graces, because it's very feel good, very poppy. It puts me in mind of the pop music that I loved listening to growing up. It feels very traditional pop to me. Even though pop is not supposed to be like a genre particularly, it's just supposed to be popular. If pop had a sound, this is the sound that I envision pop to have. That's the song, Good Graces. That's track number 3. And of course there is Espresso, which y'all know I did a recreation of that song. You should go and check it out. I think is the bubble gonna play on one of these sides? The bubble's gonna pop up on, but I recreated the song Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter, and y'all should go check that out. It was really fun. This song, big year for Sabrina, and it really is just like a feel-good record, and it just makes you want to bounce and bop. And again, sweet, short, innocent face, talking about some raunchy things, you know, like what's keeping you up is that me espresso. And then she says bold things like, I can't relate to desperation, might give a are on vacation, but she says it in the sweetest way possible. And then track number 11 stood out to me. It's called Lie to Girls, and it stood out to me because the lines is, you don't have to lie to girls. If they like you, they'll just lie to themselves. Don't I know it? And that one was like a gut punch for me, and it made me reminisce on maybe some not so great relationships that I've had in the past. And yeah, so like I said, there was 12 tracks on that album, only 36 minutes. It really is a short and sweet project. Short and sweet is what the name of it is. And I really enjoyed it. There are some country elements in the album that actually really surprised me. I wasn't expecting to hear that, but I also enjoyed her use of harmonies. Usually in the country and the pop spaces, they tend not to use a lot of harmonies, like 3-4 part harmonies, but Sabrina Carpenter's project, I was pleasantly surprised. She makes use of harmonies, and I really enjoy that vocal stacking, and it gives the sound experience a bit of a complexity, and it gives me something for my ear to pick out, something different every time I hear it. You know, if I decide to play it back over and over, there's always a little detail that I end up picking out because they put so much layering into the song. She also has really clean vocals. The whole album is a vibe, and the songs are a good traditional length with bridges, which I really appreciate. I really appreciate that. Again, my only critique would be that it's only a 36-minute runtime. I get that the album is called Short and Sweet, but I wanted more. I wanted more. So that's all I would have to say about Sabrina. All right. Next up is Charli XCX. Her album is called Brat. 15 tracks, 42 minutes of runtime. I really liked it. I had not heard of Charli XCX before listening to this album. Well, the only time that I had heard of her is when I think it was either Record of the Year or Song of the Year that she got nominated for, where me and Q reviewed. And it was for her song 365, which is the last track on the Brat album. And it wasn't my favorite out of the other nominations that were included on the list, but listening to the entire album of Brat, I definitely have a better appreciation of 365. It fits the vibe, it fits the whole, I don't want to say aesthetic because it's a sonic piece, but it fits the whole vibe of the album Brat. So I can definitely appreciate it for what it is, even though it's not typically what I would go for. I could definitely hear this album being played at a party. It's very pop, rave, fist bumping type of party situation. Like I would want to listen to this music if I were to go to like an EDM festival. I feel like she would mix in very well with that. I think she's from the UK because that's what her accent suggests. I would say, like, don't they have the whole grunge thing going on there? That's kind of like similar to EDM for us here in the States. I don't know. But that's exactly where I would play her music. And speaking of, I also listened to this in Arizona while I was getting ready right after Sabrina Carpenter's album. But speaking of parties, right? Like the standout tracks for me, number 2, Club Classics, where she says, I want to dance to me. And I feel that because as an artist, one of my goals is to have such a great and diverse catalog that no matter where I am, I can hear myself, or I will hear myself on the playlist included at wherever I am. Whatever event I'm at, my music matches that. So I like that. And then track number 14, I think about it all the time. I relate to this really hard because she's talking about running out of time and deciding between career and like building a family, you know, like the regular womanly urges that we feel as women as we get up there in age and we get closer and closer to our baby and like child rearing years. That one I relate to really hard. I wasn't expecting for her to have a track like that because most of it is like a party joint, but every now and then she throws in some stuff about like existential crisis or like, man, I'm 1 foot in, 1 foot out with this whole career thing. I'm famous, but not famous enough. Like I'm famous, but I still live a regular life. And she throws that in there, but very much keeping with that party vibe and not really throwing it off. This is probably the most reflective song, I guess she would have, like the most vulnerable. And again, that's track number 14. I think about it all the time. Just for its relatability, that's probably my favorite. And then for the cockiness of it, like I said, track number 2 for Club Classics. And I didn't know what to expect from her. She is the type of artist that talk sings, which is like, it's very much like stream of consciousness, train of thought type of vibe. And she doesn't necessarily have to rhyme all the time. And she makes use of effects and a lot of the instrumentation or a lot of the effects of the beat. So effects in her actual voice and then the effects of whatever the sounds in the beat is doing. She makes great use of that. And I had to look it up because I was like, girl, what you talking about? I think about it all the time and I don't know if I want to choose between career and starting a family. And I looked up her age. I thought she was like 22, 23. I looked up her age. She is 32. And that also gives me some hope because I'm currently 31. And it's like, okay, maybe I will get the recognition I've been looking for in the next year or 2. We'll see what happens. But yeah, her music definitely gives me London party vibe. So I thought she would be a little bit younger than what she is. But overall, I really enjoyed the project. Next album, Jacob Collier, Jessie Volume 4. This album is 21 tracks for the deluxe. For some reason, I don't feel like I listened to the deluxe version when I first listened to it. But when I went back on Apple Music, which is where I've been listening to all of this, when I went back on Apple Music, it said deluxe was the only one available for this album. So I guess it's for the deluxe album. But it's 21 tracks and a runtime of 1 hour, 36 minutes. And I actually really enjoyed the project. It was definitely different. And for some reason, it gives me Christian choir type of album. A lot of the songs are big and choir and cinematic and theatrical, which I really enjoy. Very musical, and I really appreciated the versatility of sounds that were used in the album. I never heard of Jacob Collier before, and I want to say, I haven't even done my research, but like, if he is how I'm thinking, then Jacob Collier is like a David Guetta type, where it's not necessarily him singing on the records, but rather him bringing people together to create a record. Like he brings the artist and he's the producer. You know what I mean? Like a DJ Khaled type vibe going on. That's how I think of him. But again, I haven't done any research on like if he's the actual artist or the voice on the tracks. I don't know. Some of the standout tracks for me, track number 6, Wherever I Go, featuring Lawrence and Michael McDonald. Track number 9, Mi Corazón, featuring Camilo. And track number 12, which to me is the most powerful song on the album. It just really resonated with me. Again, I think because like the Christian, it feels very Christian to me. I don't think it is a Christian body of work, but it feels like a Christian vibe because it's very big, a lot of use of choirs in a lot of the songs, I think. But number 12 is Bridge Over Troubled Water. That's featuring John Legend and Tori Kelly. very big, very powerful. It makes me want to praise the Lord. So I really enjoyed this album. I didn't know what to expect because I had never heard of Jacob Collier before, but I really enjoyed it. Next is Billie Eilish. Her album is called Hit Me Hard and Soft. 11 tracks with a runtime of 44 minutes. And at this point, compared to what I had heard previously for Album of the Year, not my favorite album of the lineup. It's a bit monotone for me. It stayed very much in one lane for me. And I know there is an audience for that, and I know that there is a vibe for that, obviously. But I think for the mood I was in and the mindset I was in, this one didn't resonate with me at this point in time in my life. And it felt a bit sad and a bit down and a bit like in a sunken place for me as I was listening to it. I will say that Billie Eilish has a gorgeous and pure tone. Her ability to flip into the sweet falsettos, and it sounds, how do I explain it? It sounds clean, but it sounds like she's effortlessly hitting these smooth, sweet, high-pitched notes. So I can really appreciate that about her tone. And her music is very cinematic. Like when I hear her songs, I imagine particular scenes in movies where maybe a character just had a realization, or maybe a character just hurt the people that they love, and now there's like the big betrayal scene that's happening, and all of a sudden you hear Billie Eilish, I don't da, 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 da. You know, very dramatic. I will give her that for her music. Not necessarily what I would ride around bumping to, but it does evoke a lot of high emotions for the pure, clean vocals, and then the high pitch, and it just sounds very sweet, but then she's saying things that are so like heart-wrenching at the same time. So yeah, the best songs on the album in my opinion, Birds of a Feather, which is also nominated in another category, either Song of the Year or Record of the Year. And for me, Chihiro. And that's because these two were like the most upbeat for me. I think at the time of listening, I wanted to be upbeat. I wanted to be up and lifted, and these two had the best energy for me. It should be noted, I wrote a note here anyway, that there were no features on Billie Eilish's album. I also want to say that there were no features on Andre 3000's album, no features on Sabrina Carpenter's album, no features on Chappell Roan's album. So very, very interesting to me. I thought that was very interesting. So yeah, only Jacob Collier and Beyoncé had, oh, and Taylor Swift had features on their album. So it's a pretty good mixture when comparing album of the year. Like certain factors that I'm looking for, like is that going to be a determining factor, like how many people you brought on the album with you, or if you can hold on by yourself. I think that it holds more weight when an artist can just be them on the album, and that they can win something like Album of the Year. I think that's a very powerful place to be in as an artist. Like you can hold your own. And once you prove that, then you bring in features and stuff like that. Of course, we know that with Beyonce and Taylor Swift, and maybe obviously Jacob Collier, because they have the most features on their stuff. But anyway, let's get into Chappell Roan, The Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess. This was 14 tracks long at a runtime of 49 minutes. And I was actually very surprised that I liked this album. Reason being is because the song Good Luck Babe was nominated in another category. And based on the lineup that it was up against, it wasn't my favorite record. And that was my first exposure to Chappell Roan. So I didn't really know like if I would like her, or if her music would resonate with me, or if I would be feeling it, you know. But when I listened to this Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess, I was pleasantly surprised. I liked it. Love it, actually. It really gives me an 80s feel on a lot of the songs, that 80s party Studio 54 type vibe. Very surprising. I would say maybe like Madonna, very like fashion montage type of music. Same thing with Billie Eilish, but in its own way, in a different way. Theatrical, cinematic. A lot of her songs remind me of like the epic montage scenes in some of the biggest moments on like in a movie, right? And some of the standout tracks for me, number 4, Coffee. Number 5, Casual, the audacity and the vulnerability. Just like with Sabrina Carpenter, just looking at these I'm gonna keep it so transparent. just looking at these white girls, you're like, oh, they're so sweet, they're so cute, they look so innocent. And then they come on the track talking about some raunchy things, and it's like, oh, y'all get down just like we do, but y'all do it in a little sneaky, little cute, little innocent way. It's really interesting to hear. Very interesting to hear. But Casual is one of those songs. Like, was it casual when you were eating me out in the back of your car? And I'm like, girl, what? I was surprised. Didn't know what to expect from Chappell Roan. I was surprised. But song number 6, Super Graphic Ultra Modern Girl. Big record. Super 80s. Like I said, fashion montage, energy, movie, cinematic. I can see that for this song. Number 10, Kaleidoscope. It's beautiful, it's vulnerable. Her vocals are so clean, and she effortlessly slides through different ranges, through different dynamics of vocals. It's really great. Song number 11, Pink Pony Club. 80s movie, cinematic, same thing. And oh, I skipped number 7, Hot to Go. Again, another 80s feel to me. I love the 80s, and so I really enjoyed this album because she has so many like 80s elements within her songs. I would say it is a solid body of work, and again, she has no features, which is very impressive to me. I love it when I can hear a piece of work from an artist and it's just them and they prove that they can hold their own. So I was very much surprised with this album by Chappell Roan. And finally, last but not least, the last nominee for Album of the Year is Taylor Swift, The Tortured Poets Department. This album stands at a whopping 31 tracks and a 2-hour, 3-minute runtime. That is a movie, y'all. First impression of this album, 31 tracks. Like, I was actually very annoyed looking at the track list. I would not say that I am an active fan of Taylor Swift. I did like her album, was it 1989? 1989, I think, was the album. The one with like Bad Blood and Shake It Off, and just, that was a great album. I was a fan of hers during that time because, and what was the other one? Blank Space. I've got a blank space, baby, and I'll write your name. I really like that era of Taylor Swift. But this era is the Tortured Poets Department. And from listening, just the first 5 tracks, very much giving very tortured, very sad, very tortured soul, all right? It definitely lives up to the name. Very depressing, very sad. I wasn't feeling it for most of the album up until maybe like halfway through, only because I was not in a sad mood. Same thing with the Billie Eilish album. I wasn't in a sad mood. I didn't want to feel sad. So where I was at that point in time, I couldn't resonate. Like, the album wasn't resonating with me because I wasn't in that state of mind. However, that being said, some standout tracks. 8 number. Song number 8, the song Florida, featuring Florence and the Machine. And the reason why this is a standout is because literally the 7 tracks before that, very slow, very sad. The first track on the album is Fortnite, featuring Post Malone, which was also nominated for either Record or Song of the Year. Too slow for me. I didn't like it very much. Too slow for me. But number 8 was the first upbeat track. Number 14, Smallest Man Who Ever Lived. Number 23, I Hate It Here. This was probably the most relatable track on the entire album. Number 23, I Hate It Here. But we're at track 23 before we get to that. At least for me anyway, you know? Track number 25, I Look in People's Windows. Very vulnerable in my opinion. And then track number 26, The Prophecy. So, and it's hard for me to pinpoint certain things in this album to like identify with and to like. As I said though before, like most of these, it's a mixture of I was just vibing with the album, like I was just feeling it, or they said something within the music that resonated with me and that like stuck with me, right? In this Taylor Swift one, the one that sticks out the most is track number 23, but it takes so long to get to track number 23 if you're listening to it in the order that she intended, right? And track 23 is I Hate It Here. And I can definitely resonate And I think once I got to this point in the album, my mood had changed from happy to kind of like drab because some personal drama was going on and some things rubbing me the wrong way. And so then I started to feel the energy of the album. And I guess I could relish in it more because my mindset was down, my mood was down. And even still though, I Hate It Here, very relatable, very relatable. The issue that I take with Taylor Swift's writing is that even though I know she's 30 something, it's very high school still. And whereas others, they are older women, more mature women, they look younger, they still maintain an innocent look about them, but their lyrics are able to explore more mature topics in ways that are not corny. The issue that I take with the music and the lyrics, the choice of lyrics in Taylor Swift's album, is that it's very juvenile. And like, I want her to explore deeper, but it never hits deeper. It's just, it feels very surface level. And it feels like, I know it's called the Tortured Poets Department. Oh gosh, I might get some heat for this. It feels like I'm in high school trying to sound deep for an English writing assignment. Like sometimes she'll start saying something very deep and then it kills it with some juvenile high school thing. Like, oh my gosh, which song was it? Something, 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 but I feel like a weirdo. And I'm like, if you hadn't gone, I feel like a weirdo, this might have been a line that really ate for me, but you lost me, you dropped the ball with me because you decided to go this direction when you were taking me up, and then we kind of just fell off with that. So I keep wanting her to get deeper and it just doesn't come for me. So, you know, I'm just probably not the intended audience. You know, I'm black. I'm not a younger woman. I'm in my 30s now. I'm in my 30s now. So maybe I'm just not the intended audience, and that's okay. But I do, as long as Taylor Swift has been out, I wish I heard some growth. Maybe there has been. I haven't followed her enough to know. But I would say that the 1989 album was more mature than this. But it also makes me wonder, like, Taylor, what's going on? Or what happened? Why are you so sad? What happened in your life? So in that sense, I can relate, but also it falls flat for me for some of the lyric choices. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the nominees for Album of the Year. To read through that one more time: Andre 3000 with New Blue Sun, Beyoncé with Cowboy Carter, Sabrina Carpenter with Short and Sweet, Charli XCX with Brat, Jacob Collier with Jessie Volume 4, Billie Eilish with Hit Me Hard and Soft, Chappell Roan with The Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess, and Taylor Swift with The Tortured Poets Department. Now, I told you on my blind prediction, I gave the #1 spot to Beyoncé for Cowboy Carter and the #2 spot for Taylor Swift, The Tortured Poets Department. Purely because I love Beyoncé and purely because Taylor Swift is a good choice politically in the industry to make. However, after careful consideration, I must change my prediction. So Beyoncé is gonna stay at #1 because that's Beyoncé. Are you crazy? I'm keeping Beyoncé at #1 for Cowboy Carter because overall, I enjoyed listening. The listening experience for Beyoncé, I enjoyed the entire run through. No skips for me. Not that I was necessarily loving every song because it's so new and she's introducing me to a genre that I don't typically listen to. Probably the most experience I have with country music would be like Carrie Underwood, and I haven't listened to Carrie Underwood in over 10-15 years, but it's really amazing to me that I will give the genre a chance because of who Beyoncé is. And I feel like she just took such care with the genre. She took her time putting it together. It feels like a complete body of work. She takes me through an experience. It essentially runs like a playlist. I can play the whole thing and it feels like one long flowing experience versus things feeling out of place. So I gotta keep the #1 spot for Beyoncé Cowboy Carter. However, I'm going to change my second slot prediction. I'm kicking Taylor Swift off And this is hard for me. I was thinking about it just before I started this video. This is hard for me because I love Sabrina Carpenter. Love Sabrina Carpenter. She is nominated in like 4 different categories. So even if she didn't win this one, she's got a chance in other categories, right? But Chappell Roan really surprised me. So I'm gonna give an honorary mention to Sabrina Carpenter, but I'm going to change my number 2 spot to Chappell Roan, the rise and fall of a Midwest princess. Now, let me know if I am tripping. Let me know if y'all agree. The reason why I'm giving the number 2 spot is because with Beyoncé and Chappell Roan, more emotions were brought out for me. And I think that's the biggest difference for me when I go through these lists. They are very balanced in the different moods that they give me. Not all sad, not all mellow. It like the energy goes up and down. It's very dynamic projects is what I'm getting at. So either Beyoncé or Chappell Roan, that's who I would give album of the year to. And I wonder if Q were to listen, I wonder if he would keep with his predictions. He has Billie Eilish first and then Taylor Swift. Is that what I said? Yeah, he has Billie Eilish and then Taylor Swift as his second choice. I think his is very politically charged as well, industry politics. But yeah, I wonder if he actually would have listened through. Would he keep his or would he change it? But y'all know what my predictions are. Those are my reviews of all of the Grammy nominated albums of the year. Let me know, am I tripping or am I on point? Do you agree with me? Let me know in the comment section down below. Which one do you think is going to win the Grammy for album of the year? Gotta be Beyonce. I'm gonna be upset if it's anyone other than Beyonce. Happy, but also equally upset when she wins because it's like, oh, she had to go in the country to get album of the year. Got it. But anyway, those are my predictions. Those are my reviews. Thank you all so much for tuning in for another Grammy video in this Grammy series, all right? Let me know, again, what you think in the comment section. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you'll be notified each and every time I post a new piece of content. Thank y'all so much for tuning in, and make sure you stay tuned for the next video in the Grammy series. Until next time, my name is LexC. Peace.
I think we got a problem, but what's the point of bringing anything up if we don't got the tools to solve it? We just keep revolving around the issue. I hate fighting on the phone when I really miss you, cause my problem is that I don't get to see you. So why you fighting me for shit that I can see through? If you made sure my needs were met, you wouldn't think that anything I do would threaten your respect. But oops.